Going to the all-inclusives, I think are great. I think it's a good entry, coming in, going to the all-inclusives, and then after you've done that a few times, maybe venture out. Maybe get on a collectivo or take a cab. And once we did that, and then went to a cenote and saw some of the area, you're like, yeah, okay, nothing happened. I'm still alive.
Welcome to Expats Like Us, a co-production with Me Vida Margarita, exploring the world of U.S. expat life in Mexico. In each episode, we'll meet new people and hear their stories. We'll also learn more about expat life and get a few tips on everything from making your move to settling in to living your dreams. And most of all, having fun. Let's dive in. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Bussey. Since taking early retirement and moving to Mexico full-time 2.5 years ago, Sherry and I have learned a lot about international living. Besides the usual challenges of setting up a new life in a new place and a different culture and even a different language, we were and continue to be surprised at the number of outstanding people that we've become friends with. Each expat has a story to tell about how they got here and how they adapted to life in Mexico. Today we are talking with our friend and neighbor Tim Hasty. Tim and his wife Jane are among the first people that we met when we arrived, and shortly after that we attended an event called Mezcal and Mole where Tim was running the show. We'll talk more about that later, but first things first. Hi Tim, and welcome to Expats Like Us.
Bob, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I didn't realize you had such a radio voice. It's great. I'm very impressed.
People tell me. I don't hear it, but people tell me that.
Very professional.
Tell me about your life before you retired.
My previous life. Okay. Mm-hmm. My previous life, I was a police officer, born and raised in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago specifically. And my wife and I married 32 years, high school sweethearts. We got 2 kids. Decided to retire at age 50. She thought I was absolutely crazy. A lot of people did. Mm-hmm. Like, when you're a cop, they want you to stay in, and collect that full pension. That's what a lot of guys do. But I wanted to get out early, wanted to do something different, and we decided to pack up and actually move to Mexico, which people thought we were even crazier. So,
I feel that same way. There's still people that I know back in the States that still think we're crazy for moving here, but that's part of the purpose of this whole podcast is to explain that's not a crazy thing. It's a really good thing.
Now, some people think we're smart now. That we right. Saw things coming
because the crazy is in the United States right now.
Yeah, a lot of the crazies up there now.
So what brought you specifically to Mexico?
Well, that's funny, too. I got a lot of stories, Bob, just so you know. I got a lot of stories.
That's good.
So that was a good story. So we were sitting in the den on the computer, and I was on Zillow or Redfin, I can't remember, looking at houses, that in states that didn't tax my pension. So I was looking at Texas, and part of the Texas bled into Mexico. So now, next thing you know, I'm looking at houses in Mexico. And started looking at homes there, and I turned to my wife and said, what about retiring in Mexico? Because we've been coming here for years with the all-inclusives and stuff. Back 32 years ago, we honeymooned in Mexico. Her dad's from Mexico, so we had we've been here a bunch of times. And she looked at me and said, okay. So here we are.
That's nice. It's good to have an agreeable partner that wants to take part in these misadventures or these adventures, whatever they must be. You decided to move to a foreign country. Yeah. Describe that to me.
Yeah, that was a big, it was a big deal. And, you start off watching all the shows, International Living, House Hunters International, or whatever it is, Mexico Life, and everything looks great. But moving to a foreign country was a big deal. The language, the currency, the customs, all that stuff. Being away from your family is a big deal. Like I said, I got 2 kids, 26 and 28, so they're still relatively young. My wife's got family there, and I got family there, so it was a big deal. But you have to adjust, and I look at it like coming here and adjusting and fitting in is half the fun.
We've had 2 years of fun doing that, adjusting to everything.
Adjusting to it.
And there's always something new to adjust to, too.
And here specifically, I really fit in, I feel. I really enjoyed here. We're going back to Chicago December for Christmas. And I'm looking like going back there is like it's like it's like now I'm going to the foreign country, going back to the States. Just like it here, the people here, we came for a lot of reasons. The weather, you come for the economy because, everybody thinks, Mexico was so cheap, which we probably talk about later. But we came for all those reasons, but we've stayed for the people. The local people here are so nice, and but just I think there's a big the Mayan cultural influence here, which is something I didn't expect, and I just really enjoy it.
So, in your view, what are some of the most important things people should think about before making the move?
I think about, first of all, I would say make sure it's someplace that you enjoy. Make sure it's. I would say don't just do it for money reasons, for the economy. I think a lot of people do that, and once the honeymoon phase is over, then it settles in, and you're in a country that if you can't relate to it or you don't enjoy it, it could be an issue. So I would say really move somewhere. Like I couldn't picture myself moving to Greece or moving, I don't know, maybe even Italy, but probably not, because I just don't have that connection there. I feel like I have a connection here, and so that makes it a lot easier.
What do you think gives you that connection here?
Well, I think just coming here for years, vacationing here and getting to know it. It's so close. And my wife, her dad being from Mexico, and then her eventually becoming a citizen here, we just kind of have that connection.
Is her dad still with us, or is he?
No, he passed a few years ago. Sad to say, he would have loved to see us be here.
Oh,
and she got her citizenship. A big reason because of him. She would just he would love that, because she used to come. We used to come and vacation here on all inclusives, but she would come with her dad because he was a photographer, like an amateur photographer, and they would just travel through Mexico on buses, and just all throughout Mexico and take pictures and stuff when she was younger, and eventually she took my son and did that, and it was great. And so that's a big reason why.
And we kind of felt the connection the same way too, from just coming down here on vacation so many times. We met people down here while we were on vacation and realized, hey, look at these people live here, and
that's a big thing too. Yeah, coming in and going to the all inclusives, I think are great. I think it's a good entry point. Coming in, going to the all inclusives, and then after you've done that a few times, maybe venture out. Maybe get on a collectivo or take a cab. And, once we did that and, went to a cenote and saw some of the area, you're like, yeah, okay, nothing happened. I'm still alive. Yep. I survived. It's not that bad. You can do that. Right. You kind of get your feet wet, and it's a great place, and just so different. I kind of liken being here as like being in the States back in the 70s. Everything is kind of laid back. It's not so heavily regulated. I mean, sometimes some parts, I guess it is in some respect. For the most part, I just feel like free here.
I feel the same way, and I see examples of that all the time.
Yeah.
Where it's just not, it just doesn't have the same over-regulated stuff that you go through in the States.
Being a cop for that long, every single move I made was being judged and documented, and to have this freedom here, I was just, I just fell in love with it. And I call it you have big freedoms and little freedoms here. Little freedoms are day-to-day things, where you can just drive, and I have a tuk-tuk. I take it on the side of the highway and nobody messes with me.
Right.
If I couldn't do that in the States.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You'd be pulled over instantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and probably flipped off and honked at and the whole bit. Yeah.
But now if something big were to happen, like a major accident or something like that, then things could get, difficult maybe. Knock on wood. Right. So you're kind of taking, I think, that kind of risk. You know what I mean? But right now it's worth it for me.
I ride a motorcycle around here, and people, even people here are like, are you insane riding a motorcycle on the highway? But, you're right. Knock on wood. It's,
Right,
it's great so far,
Yeah,
and-
I think as long as you recognize that,
right, and you're careful about it and aware of your surroundings.
But it's fun, I mean, I'm not getting any younger, so I want to enjoy my life.
So what sort of unexpected things that maybe surprised you when you moved here?
I think really about like the Mayan culture. I didn't think there was such a Mayan influence, or that so many people spoke Mayan here. You get to know the workers, like all the workers at Loja speak Mayan. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I got an opportunity to, through the country club, was Bahia Country Club at that time, now Tulum Country Club. And they offered one of the guys that work here in Eco Bahia, Casimiro, super sweet guy, was giving Mayan lessons. So I said, hey, I did that for I don't know, a couple of weeks and learned a couple of phrases and words and stuff. And now when I'm doing mezcal and mole aloha, I can, say a couple of things in Mayan to them. They just get a kick out of it.
Right, absolutely.
They think
people
it's
always appreciate the efforts to learn their language.
I think that's the big thing, is they appreciate you taking the time to speak, much less Spanish, to learn a couple of Mayan phrases. They just laugh their butts off.
It's a great thing, and I have yet to learn my first Mayan words at all. I'm so busy trying to learn Spanish with everything.
Well, we'll do one right now.
Give me a Mayan word.
Dios botique.
Dios botique.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
You learn that one?
I'm going to use that outside of our condo.
You'll get so much mileage out of that.
Can.
Yeah.
Dios botique.
Dios botique.
Okay. All right. So one thing that, to change the subject a little, one thing new retires often struggle with after, and you mentioned the honeymoon stage of their retirement, is finding a sense of purpose. Was that an issue for you?
Yeah, my first sense of purpose coming down here was to lay on the beach and drink margaritas.
Me too.
But, you can only do that for so long, right? But I needed to decompress. Retiring is strange, I mean, one day you're in charge of things and you have, status and all that stuff, and the next day you're a nobody. At least that's how it was in the cop world. I retired as a lieutenant, so I'm walking, people are calling me sir and all that stuff. Next day I'm in shorts and a flip-flop, and flip-flops, And so I had to take a while to just really decompress from that. Yeah. And then after that, you wake up and, and we have a pretty relatively small condo, and, it's just you and your wife now. There you are. There's my wife saying, there he is again.
Yeah.
So you got to find something to do, I think, And so we took a trip to Oaxaca back in, I got some dates here. We went to Oaxaca July 21, just to travel. And we did an experience, mezcal and mole, and I really enjoyed that. And long story short, now I'm doing mezcal and mole on the beach in Aloha.
Yeah.
So, but I needed a purpose.
And I feel the same way. I always put it as, you can't sit on the beach and drink margaritas forever. A, your liver will give out, and B, you'll be totally sunburned, and you just won't feel like you have any sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, you can't do that for that long. Yeah.
So with the mezcal and mole, tell me about the things you had to learn to be able to put on those seminars. Would you call them seminars or experiences?
Experiences. Experiences. So we went to Oaxaca. We did it. Fell in love with it. Got to know the guy that's running it, Daniel Rodriguez, and then I learned that it's also a school. So it's Agave Spirits Institute. And so I got back and enrolled in the school, I think in October of 21. Graduated from that September of 22. And while I was going to school, the school is online, most of it. You got three levels at home, and then you have to, for the fourth level, you have to go to Oaxaca for a week. And it's pretty intense. And but while I was going to school, Daniel contacted me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing tastings with the mezcal and mole? And I was, completely flattered that he asked me to do that, and I was super excited. So I said, yeah, okay, that sounds great. So I went to, Loja to talk to Carlos, because him and I got to know each other. So I went to Carlos and I said, hey, I got this thing, and told him all about it. And Carlos is a wine sommelier, and he does tastings as well there. He does mezcal and tequila tastings. And I told him what I was doing, and he just kind of looked at me and said, okay. And
Boom, there's your retirement purpose right there.
could you imagine me doing that in the States?
Yeah, right.
Hey, I want to sell.
They'd want a cut of it. You'd
I
have
want
to
to sell
sign the
liquor.
waivers.
Yeah, I want. Oh, yeah. So I signed a simple contract with the owner, a basic contract. You know. So I do have that, but then we started doing it, put it on Airbnb, and the next, we're doing events, and we're still doing them.
Yeah, it's very cool, and I've attended one of those, and I'd like to go again one of these days.
We've
it's
had
very, very cool.
Yeah, a lot of people have done it a couple of times, or they bring guests, and it really is nice. It's a really good experience. It's really a high quality product, and it's it gives me a chance, gives people a chance to get to know Mexico too.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of history with tequila and mezcal and stuff like that.
For people that don't know, that might be listening to this, tell me, what is mezcal versus
It's
everybody knows tequila is a Mexico thing.
Sure.
But so is mezcal, and what's the difference?
Mezcal, yeah. So very similar. I'd say the two biggest differences that people can take away is that tequila is made from one agave type, the agave blue Weber or azul, and mezcal can be made from many different species of agave. The other big difference is the way the agaves are cooked. With tequila, the agaves are cooked. They're steamed in either big brick ovens or autoclaves, they call them, whereas mezcal is cooked, kind of baked in an earthen pit and smoldered. They put bagasso and tarps over it and kind of let it smolder for like 3 to 5 days, and that's where it can get its kind of smoky flavor from.
Very cool. So it tastes, I mean, in my mind, it tastes a little bit like tequila because of the agave that they both come from. But to me, mezcal has a little bit more of a bite to it, or a little bit smokiness to it.
A little smokiness, and due to the fact that it can be made with different plants. Depending on that plant, it could have a completely different, flavor profile, which is a whole draw of mezcal. You get sucked down this rabbit hole where you've got so many different types of agaves, and little tweaks in the way you distill them or ferment them, and get tons of different flavors on it.
Right.
It can tend to be much more flavorful than tequila. That's why a lot of producers will age their tequilas to get a different flavor profile out of it. Whereas mezcal is typically not aged. You're going for that plant. That's all. Mezcal is all about the plant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about it's mezcal and mole. Tell me what mole is. People might not know what that is.
Yeah, it's A lot of people come to the class and they don't know what agave.
Right.
You show them, they don't even know what an agave or a mole is. So mole is a Nahuatl word that actually means sauce, like an Aztec word. It means sauce, and it's basically a sauce. But it's the base of it. It would be chili peppers, dried chili peppers, and tomatoes, and then different spices and things like that. But it's basically a sauce.
Very good. And you eat this with chicken or with
chicken, pork, anything, vegetables, rajas, peppers, you throw in scrambled eggs, you do anything with it.
Okay. So if people are coming to the Akumal area or the Riviera Maya, how would they find your presentations?
Look up Airbnb experiences, mezcal, and mole.
Okay.
And you'll find it. We do it now. We do it in here. Well, of course, we do it in Oaxaca. Now we do it here in Akumal or Tulum, because it's Tulum is municipality technically, and Mexico City, San Miguel de Allende, and I think he's starting it now in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, branching off into the States with mezcal and mole. Cool.
Really popular, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for telling us about that. That's very
Sure.
cool. That's and I can tell that you're kind of passionate about this whole thing.
Well, I don't do it for the money.
Yeah, right.
I make money. I try and have the restaurant make some money. Daniel makes some money. I do it because I love it. I really do love it, and it really is a good product. And what's really cool is you get to meet people from all over the world. It's people from Russia. You get people from Asia. All over the States and Canada. So it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of contacts, and it had a lot of repeat customers. And it's just a great way to, and I look out and I'm, on the beach, aloha, and I'm, I mean,
does it get better than that?
I know,
really?
My friends think they don't know what to think.
Right. Well, it's a great way to share your passion that you've developed for this, and a great way to spend your retirement time.
Yeah. Jane's like, you need to get out of the house. You got to get something to do.
I have that going once in a while around here as well. But yes, it's one of the important things when you are thinking about retiring, especially when you retire early. If you retire at 70 years old, you're ready to sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are, but those of us who retire younger, it's like mentally, you're not prepared to have nothing to do.
Yeah. I've seen some people that retired super early, like in their 40s, and I don't know. I don't think they're ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you have to be at a certain stage in your life. And I'm pretty good at sitting around doing nothing. You know, talk to my wife.
Right.
I can sit down, you know, play on the computer, play with the cats, go for a walk, work out, have a cigar and a little mezcal at night, and I'm good to go. My wife is she's planning everything all the time, and if she had her way, I'd be busier now than I was when I was working.
So you mentioned the economy here is different. Tell me about what's your experience with that.
Well, the peso, right? So what's the peso today? Probably 17
something like that, yeah.
So when we moved on here, I think it was in the 20s.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal, you know. And I knew that wouldn't last forever. I knew that was good. I mean, I've been to Mexico when it was like in the 13.
Yeah.
But it does, so it fluctuates a lot. And now with everything, ever since COVID, everything just seems to be twice as expensive, you know. So the economy here is, you know, you're not getting the bang for your buck. But that was a big reason why we moved here. They'd look at that and said, if I'm going to retire on a certain fixed income, I probably couldn't do that in the States.
That was the same case with us too. And it has changed a little bit, but still the cost of living is still
relatively,
we're quite still a bit cheaper than it ever would be in the States. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But that was a big factor. You know, that's a big factor for everybody. You know, in retirement, you know, unless you're got a side hustle or you're still working from home, you know, you got a budget. You know, you're going to have a monthly budget, and you got to figure that out. Yep. And you know, moving to Illinois is not cheap. Right, Chicago's not cheap. So we were going to move somewhere else. You know, and but I'm glad we moved here. But now, if you go throughout Mexico, you know, you guys have traveled throughout Mexico.
Oh yeah.
This area is relatively expensive.
Exactly.
I'd say here in Cabo are your top most expensive places.
Tourist traps, really.
Yeah. Well, that's the industry here.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
You go to Oaxaca, it's a completely different animal, much cheaper. But you know, then again, now you'd have to be able to speak Spanish. You'd have to, here you have so much to do. You're never bored here. There's theme parks. There's the beach. There's cenotes, there's tons of restaurants. I mean, it's just bored here.
The food scene here is insane.
The food is great.
1,000 restaurants around here, you know.
Yeah. Pyramids. It's great. I love it. Yeah.
So what's the best advice you would give people thinking about moving to Mexico?
Best advice? I would just say do your homework. You know, I'm going to give a shout out to Paul and Linda Kurzweil from Q. Paul and Linda. They were the reason I would say I moved here.
I would say that I feel the same way. I read their stuff and watched their stuff for a couple of years before actually moving here.
Exactly.
And they really convinced me.
Well,
and they give you so much information.
Exactly. I had all these questions and they had the answers. Yep. So do your homework. I would say do your homework and, you know, make sure it's somewhere you want to go and live because, you know, like we said before, there's a honeymoon phase. Mm-hmm. You know, and once that honeymoon phase is over, you live here. So you better you better really like it here and do your homework and be able to put up with the heat, be able to put up with the cultural differences. And I would say, too, advice is try and learn the language. You know?
Exactly.
I wouldn't say you have to be fluent, but you have to attempt.
You have to be able to get by. We've discovered that with traveling to other places in Mexico. People don't speak English like they do here.
No.
And I feel that I'm just to the point where I can get by.
Yeah.
And my goal is to be fluent, but I'm nowhere close yet.
Right, right. But you're attempting.
Yes.
And I think if you can do that, it makes a big difference. You get a different response. And I think you have a different quality of life if you can speak the language. You're not an outsider looking in all the time, and you're not that perpetual tourist.
Right.
I don't want to be a perpetual tourist here.
Exactly.
And get treated like a perpetual tourist with the prices, and you go to Tulum and, there's two prices.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want the local prices. That's why I kind of started learning Mayan. So if I could say that and okay, this guy, does live here. He's been here for a while.
And knowing the language kind of opens up a whole new world of potential friendships.
Absolutely.
And,
that's a good point.
The whole bit.
So I would say that's another really good point of important living here is expand your circle of friends, because it's easy to get, I call it like the bubble, where when you're first here, it's great. You meet all these people here, and then, it's always the same people. You want to get out and expand your circle of friends. So now we've got friends that live in Tulum and Cancun and Playa, friends that live in Oaxaca, a friend that lives, and meeting the local guys. So we had a mezcal and mole tasting at our condo. It was from a different producer. Got to know him, and he brought a guy with him who was a chef up in Cancun, Benjamin, and we got to know him and his family. And they invited us up to Cancun for Mexican Independence Day, and we had chiles en nogadas. And that was a great experience. You know what I mean? It was getting out, and that's a great way to enjoy Mexico is, through, what's better than having a family dinner with locals at their own home. It was great.
Absolutely.
We're friends now. He's a mezcalero, and we do things with that, and they had a convention at one of the hotels, and we went to that and met more producers from Oaxaca. So and that's what's enjoyable is meeting new people. If you can meet locals and get in with not just not just Americans and expats, it really does make it a different level. I think
it's a whole new and a much richer experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tim, for being here. We appreciate your advice, and we appreciate your stories.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Thanks for joining Expats Like Us.
Thank you.
In each episode of Expats Like Us, we're going to teach you a new Mexican slang word. This is something you may not find in your phrase book or your online Spanish class or your Spanish app or wherever you're learning your Spanish. Instead, this is a term used primarily by Mexican Spanish speakers. Today's word is...
Sale.
Sale. What does sale mean?
It translates to leave, but you use it as an all right, okay.
Okay, sale.
Sale, está bien.
Gracias.
All right, it's good.
Gracias, Erica Kowalski from Mi Vida Margarita. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on today's topic. Just look up Expats Like Us on Facebook or send us an email at expatslikeuss@gmail.com. You can also see videos of interviews and all sorts of fun content on our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Follow, like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thank you to today's guest, Tim Hasty. Thanks also to our co-producers from Mi Vida Margarita. Most of all, thank you for tuning in to Expats Like Us. And thank you for interacting with us on social media. Next time, we're going to bring you more first-hand information about your international move. Until then, remember, our homes are not defined by geography or one particular location, but by memories, events, people, and places that span the globe.